Did I bite off more than I could chew with this renovation? Probably so. I've got, you can see how cold it is in here. Although it's much warmer than it was. We're about -1 in the UK. And now that I've built this wall behind me, it's feeling a little bit more warmer in here. I've still got areas that need insulating and kind of wrapping in timber to make the room look pretty again. So I've got quite a bit to do, really. Hello, would you bend? Is that you, Josie? If it is, well, I presume it is you because it's you that's got the phone. So I'm just talking about some of the jobs that I've got to do. Hi, Shaz. I had 2 weeks off at Christmas. I don't very often get 2 weeks in a row where I can do whatever I want to do because I'm either traveling or I'm working in the studio. And yes, this live, yes, it's me. Hello, Josie. Hi, Shaz. Yes, Shaz is here as well. So I don't really get the time. I've got you in a cupboard. I'm going to show you around in a minute. I don't really get the time in a row to get big jobs done. So this has been on my mind for 3 years, insulating this room. I've got a lovely radiator. My big brother bought me some Amazon vouchers for Christmas, and I'm not big for Amazon. I like to kind of, as you know, reclaim and, you know, try and make things myself rather than buy new. But we had £50 in vouchers, so thank you, big brother. And we've bought a radiator for this room. So it's a electric oil-filled radiator. So hopefully once that's on, and this is all plugged off and nice and cozy, it should be really nice and toasty through the winter. As when you do any job in your home or anywhere else, this is obviously my studio, you uncover one thing and you find another thing that needs fixing, or, you know, there's problem solving along the way. It's a bit like furniture painting, it really, but on a bigger scale. So I'm going to take you through. And originally, all I was meant to be doing was putting this window in and a door and sealing off this. And of course, I've started to renovate the whole room. But there is reasons for that. I'm going to show you what I'm up to. So I'll pull back here so you can see what I've done. Let's flip the camera. So that was a double garage door, and although there's a window there and it doesn't look like there's anything behind it, there is a barn door that opens, so I can have natural light through that window. I just have to open the door in the daytime and shut it back up in the evening, and it just looks like a garage door, I suppose. The other thing that I've done is added this composite door. So the composite door has got window in at the top. So again, 2 sources of natural light. I had 0 natural light. I used to work with my wooden door open all day long, which again in the winter is not suitable. In the summer, I'll have the door open probably. The other thing that I found is since I've insulated this wall and panelled it and it's got filled with insulation, it's quieter. We've got kids in the garden next door and they love playing, and there's a dog next door but one that barks, and I kind of get a little bit, ooh, is that annoying for people watching my videos? So now it's a little bit more soundproofed. So all I've done, I'm going to talk you what the room is. So the previous owner applied this stuff to the wall. It looks like tongue and groove paneling, but it is actually it's actually for refrigeration companies. It's about so thick, and it's got insulation behind it. It's metal, which has been good because all of these paint spots, I can just kind of wipe it down and get rid of that. So what I've done is added real tongue and groove paneling, which is going to be painted. I have kind of had a little paint over here because I'm desperate to paint. So it's just an idea of colour, I think. I think I want to go for a neutral rather than just white to match everywhere else. Also, I've got the windows to trim out. I'm going to trim out the windows here. I've got this lovely piece of wood, which above the workshop, there is loads of wood which I've reclaimed and used. Obviously, I've bought new woods for the finishing touches, but everything I've been trying to reclaim. And this little bit, let me show you the end of it. It's quite a hefty bit of wood. That's kind of a lovely, that's all I've got of it. But what I thought I'd do is I will add it. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Wobbly camera. I'm going to cut it to size and hang it underneath and mine to the corners, and then put a windowsill on there. So you've got a little extra windowsill and it should look pretty. And then up and around, I will trim the doors out. So that's one little job just to finesse the wall spaces. I came up to here. I've got to wrap around this corner. I'm going to come to the corner and then go into the door frame up and over. I've had to also move some not move some wiring. I've added a socket, which is down there, and I've got a little plug in and it smells lovely in here. So I've added a socket there because currently I've got no electric on this side. I can bring some down from the top, which from the attic space, which I think I'm going to pull down one socket there, because the sockets that I had were on this side. Which I know that looks a ramble. I'll explain that in a minute. So consequently, I used to have an extension lead that run across the room, which was kind of a trip hazard. So now it can be behind the door, straight out into the room. And should I work in this area, I'm thinking this area might be my crafting area. The piece of furniture I picked up for free, which will be a project at some point. I'm going to show you the messy side. This is the side you normally get to see. Obviously, there's all bits of timber and concrete and all sorts going on. That's another free piece. It was pulled out of somebody's front garden. There's 2 more pieces. I only usually store about 4 pieces of furniture at once because otherwise it gets a bit too busy. At the back, in front of my cabinet there, the number 5 cabinet, there is a board of wood there, which is 4 by 5 foot. I had it cut to 5 foot because that's what I could fit into the car. And that's what I would use for staging my furniture. I sometimes flip it to its side and have it landscape and just move the board around and the piece of furniture. So that's where you see all of the pictures, and I repaint that over and over again. Now it's going to be chopped up and used as shelves. So gone off the staging board, and I'll explain why. On this side, all of this cabinetry was already in. I jazzed it up with a bit of paneling around each door frame. I am going to add a little bit of trim in there just to finesse that, because what happens, if you can see down there, if you look down there to the edge, when I'm doing anything dusty, it all fills with dust and it looks real messy. I mean, it is a workshop, but if I put a little bit of a half round or a quarter round on those doors, it'll most likely not build up with so much dust. So some of this is the products that I've got to be stored. And the reason being, these cupboards normally have all of I've got paint in there, different brands of paint at the top, and paint in my cupboard at the end. And these cupboards normally store all of my tools, things like what you can see on the floor, these tools. Currently there's a basket down there full of tools and 1 or 2 other tools that have got to go back in the cupboard. At the moment, in these 2 cupboards, there's some of these bread baskets, and they're full of wood you bend. And I'm going to move them so that this can be dedicated to tools, anything larger. There is a shelf that runs through the middle of there. But what I've done, this cabinet, sorry about the wobbly camera, this cabinet run all the way to the other end of the room, and I've cut it in half. And the reason being is because I've been doing this. So you can see where I've chopped it. I've added a side panel, a bit more worktop, because I've added this. I have got a dedicated staging wall, which is about 1.5 foot taller than my staging board, and it's about 1.5 foot, maybe 2 feet wider by the time I finish. So I've got a bigger surface area. Now, what I've done with this is attic boarding. It is only chipboarding, but it had a tongue and grooved connection. So what I can do with this, it meant that everything went flat. So I'm going to fill. I've already last night I've used PVA glue in the cracks and made sure that this is all, because it's fiberboard. It will get, if it gets wet, it will get grainy and not very nice. So I filled them, and then I'm going to go in this crack with some 2-part filler, and then sand this all, and obviously the screws, I've sunk them in. I'm going to flatten this all off, so it will be like a plastered wall. I'm going to pull back out. Also, I'll be filling underneath there with mastic as well, with sealant, so it makes sure that there is a gap between the ground and the top, but I'll be filling in there just to stop any moisture coming up from the ground. And of course, I'll be trimming out with skirting board, which will go along there. And at the top, there will be some cornice as well, just a simple cornice. I think I'm going to wrap it right the way around. There is a trim, let me pull out, there is a trim up there. This is kind of refrigeration boards on the ceiling, but this is kind of plastic, and it does come off really easy. So I'm going to put something nicer, a bit more depth, and just make all the lines look clean. Hopefully it'll cover that metal bracket in there. Lots of filling to do. The other side of the room, this side, I'm going to pull as far back as I can get. So obviously that cabinet went zoom all the way there, and then I had a couple of cabinets stood on top that hid all of the electric gubbings. What we've got here is, in this corner, we've got an electric box. That's the trip switch box. And then we've got the meter, all of the electric coming in, and Wi-Fi connector. And this socket I had to move because that was up there, and I wanted a little bit more space on my staging board. The other thing that I've got is these. I picked these up a long time ago for free. They're a lovely 1930s cupboard door. So what I plan to do here, and again, talking about the other cabinets, that half round, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a half round into the corners of this cabinet. Look how filthy this is. I want to show you this though. This is a beautiful little handle. Let me come in the light. See this little handle? I'm going to keep this because it's got a little button in the middle, and the button releases a catch which opens the door, which I think is so beautiful. I've never seen one before, but these are going to go more or less, without tripping over, Jonathan, I'm going to come right over here. Sorry guys, you get a better view if I pull back. They're going to go more or less there. There's going to be a built-in here. But now what I've got to do is all of this electrical gubbins. One of them doesn't is not working, but we've got 2 light switch sockets. So that's all that conduit's going to come out, and it's going to be concealed behind the cupboard. So where you see those 2 doors, it's going to be built up to where the end of that board ends, and it's going to finish about where you see it, more or less where you see it. So that's going to be a lot of good storage, where I think things like wood you bend, posh chalk papers, my IOD stock, so things like the paint inlays, all of the small stuff is going to go in that cupboard. The cupboard's going to come out to about where that board ends. So it's going to kind of zigzag in and out. And then I'm going to paint, and obviously it's going to be trimmed out with the beadboard right the way to the end, and a little bit on the other side, just here, wrapping around. The light switches will be in the side of this built-in, and it should all look a lot cleaner with some more cornice above the top. And that is the plan. I think I probably did bite off more than I can chew. I've got to I want to jazz up the floor a little bit. These bricks are beautiful, but it needs a good old clean and a scrub. Painting the cabinets, you can see now. I'm thinking I might go for an olive colour. I'm thinking olive. The other thing that I've got to do is I had to join this cabinet because this worktop ended here and it run another 3 meter length. And what a problem I had to get this cabinet top out, because again, this metal cladding, the insulation cladding, it sits in a groove here, this little groove, and it slots in. But the previous owner obviously put the cabinetry in first, and then he put this metal strip down and screwed into the worktop. So pulling that out was not easy. And I was going to replace the whole run of this worktop with something new, but I know that it's screwed in all the way down and it is a nightmare to get out. So again, I'm going to have to come up with a concept of something nice, because what you can see is I normally cover it with sticky back plastic. This white, this underneath this white is the same as this. And it's not bad, but I don't love the colour. I prefer it white. So I've got to do, what I might do is stick this all back down. I'm thinking I might even add a bit of trim, square off this edge, put a bit of trim all the way around, and then fill the join that's in between the timber, because this worktop, again, it sits really flush with the cabinet. So if I bring it out a little bit more that way and then fill, I could get some more sticky back plastic and it will go over nicely, and I can just refresh that whenever it gets a bit worn, which it does. Sometimes I put a hammer or something heavy on it or scratch it, it's not so good. So I've been trying to think of all different ways of covering it. I mean, it's a good surface, I just need to cover it with something the right colour. I've been thinking, could I use floor tiles, not ceramic? Well, I could use ceramic tiles, that's one thing, but then hammers on ceramic could chip, so I'm not sure about that. But you can get sticky back, peel and stick floor tiles, and I thought, well, that would be quite durable and wipeable. Or I might just go for more sticky back plastic. Answers on a postcard. If you've got any good ideas. I did think, it'd be lovely putting timber over the top, but that will chip and paint. It's kind of a porous surface. I need a plastic finish, really. I wish you could buy thick laminate. I've looked for it all over, like something that's thick and solid that I could just glue over the top, but can't find it. I've looked everywhere. So let me flip back round. So that's where I'm at. I am literally, so the next job is, I've just finished that job, panelled the end, put the worktop back on there. The next job is to, I like the idea of peel and stick tiles. Yeah, I was thinking that, but then I was thinking, is it going to be too over patterned? Not unless I could find, so I need to really have a look, because if I could get some, maybe I'd go for a timbery sort of finish, something that looks like wood. And if I put a piece of real wood on the end to panel it out, I can stain that the same colour as the tiles. So that is an idea, and I think it would be more durable, especially when I've got to fill the edges to make it square. So I need to look at that, but that is going to be the least of my worries. Laminated hard wood. Yeah, I mean, the worktop is that. I've even thought, do I just, because I can't get it out, do I just put a little trim underneath, a little bit of wood, and then buy a thin profiled, because you can buy thin worktops in the colour that I want and just stagger it up so that comes out a little bit further, because that's not, because half the worktop goes, well, a little bit goes underneath that panelling, which is that much, it's not a full worktop. So if I stagger it and have a bit wider over the top, so that's another thought. Anyway, I will work that out. Somehow I'll work it out. Meanwhile, what I need to do is tackle the electrics there whilst I've got light, so I can shut everything off, reroute the wires, take some of that plastic down, because I need every inch of space in the cupboard once I've built it. And then I'm building a framework for this cupboard, and it will go right the way to the ceiling, and then I can start adding the paneling around the cupboard and then trimming it out. Also, I've got to insulate that corner because it wasn't insulated behind the cupboards, and that is a cold corner. So I will give you a progress report probably tomorrow or the day after. I probably did bite off more than I could chew, but having said that, I can see the wood for the trees, quite literally, the wood for the trees. I can literally now see that I probably won't get done before I go back to work, which is Thursday. I'll probably get the carpentry work done, but then I will be back in my studio the following week. And I think I'm just going to do you a video of me painting the studio. I think I'm just going to clean up, prop the camera in different places, do all of the sanding, filling and painting, and share that, because that's going to look far more prettier than the woodwork. I could have filmed all the woodwork, but it's just boring and I need lots of time to think about it. So what I'll do, also the door, it's a brown composite door. I do want to paint that. That is probably going to go white on the inside. It needs painting on the outside. But that will be another job probably when the weather gets a little bit better. I'm not sure. Anyhow, I've talked too much. I just wanted to check in. Love it so far. Oh, thank you, Josie. I think as well, now I've got this space, this huge amount of space at this end now, which means I can get my photography, I can go further back with my camera. I've got some more natural light sources, storage space, you know, because 4 pieces of furniture means I can stack 2 there and 2 on this side, and then they're easily moved for when I take photographs and end shots. And also 2 other spaces that I could film potentially. I've got smaller craft projects that I want to do. So I've got this lovely corner which looks quite cottagey, and then I've got a blank wall. So there's lots of other angles now because I've cleared the space. There's lots of angles where I can do more filming, so the videos don't look so boring. But as you can see, this angle at this side, which you never saw because it used to be stacked with rubbish and furniture, and I've had a real good clear out, is going to be really pretty. So potentially I could film that way. So yeah, tune in next week. Hopefully I'll be doing the painting. I'll be finishing off some of the painting. Hopefully I'll get the woodwork done, all the trimming out. Who knows? But I'll check in and I'll give you a progress report on all of the renovation. I'm not going to talk any longer. I just wanted to say hello, and I'm still here. And the reason is that I'm just renovating this space so I can bring you better videos, and I've got a more usable space that's purpose kind of built for what I'm doing, really. Anyhow, lots of love. Happy New Year if I didn't catch you the other day. Take care, everyone. I will see you soon. See you later, Josie.